Welcome once again to We the People, a New Birth of Freedom. Thanks so much for stopping by. And please feel free to subscribe and comment at the bottom. We've been talking about the Declaration of Independence and how it's the foundation of who we are as Americans. Without sovereign independence, we cannot experience life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness in its full context. The preamble to the Declaration of Independence is clear, precise, simplistic, and I use that word simple or simplistic in the context of purity, and profound, and the wisdom contained in those words were to be experienced and enjoyed for all future generations of true, free Americans. The words that Thomas Jefferson wrote were not some hieroglyphics discovered in a cave. It was not based on theory, hypothesis. It was not a political maneuver or agenda. It was not decided by a Supreme Court or a specific political party, but rather, as he studied his surroundings and the events that were occurring in the world as he understood them at the time, and then looked to his own experiences under the oppression of the King of England, as he observed the religious hierarchy and oppression that had been dealt out under Roman Catholic rule, as he looked at the abuses and oppressions and usurpations of both religious and political and human endeavors, he knew there was a higher power, a higher design that transcended human decision. The limitations, the finite decisions of humanity. As he began to compose those words, he said, "We hold these truths to be self-evident." He was subscribing to and defining an absolute authority that was intrinsic inside of us. It was not a theory or hypothesis. It was not a human construct. It was a self-evident truth contained within our own biology and psychology. It was all around him and all inside of him. He saw it. He tapped into it. And I know, let me interject to say this, I know there's a big slavery issue there, and I'm very well aware of that. I'm not trying to avoid that, and we'll get into that subject later on. But let it be suffice for me to say this at this time. What was taking place was self-evident truth designed by the laws of nature, and nature's God was colliding with tradition and culture. Let's just leave it at that for right now. We hold these truths to be self-evident, not decided by a Supreme Court or political party. Self-evident. It's inside of us, intrinsic, inherent within us. It's an actual truth inside of us. That all men, all humankind, gender neutral there, all humankind are created equal. And though that equality had not yet been experienced at the inception and the birth of America, Thomas Jefferson knew that if these truths were preserved and maintained and cultivated, that eventually slavery would be abolished, and it was. These truths are self-evident. These truths are inalienable rights. Inalienable rights. And these truths, the characteristics of these truths are life, liberty, justice, and the pursuit of happiness. And they're sovereign within each independent individual that make up we the people. The words are clear, precise, simplistic, and profound. They were visionaries beyond any politician that we have today. Their absolute enduring profound truths. They're not a Shakespearean sonnet or the poetry of a poet. They're truths. And then Thomas Jefferson went on to say where these truths are discovered, who designed these truths, and he found them to be in the law of nature and nature's God. That's where politicians stumble. That is the greatest stumbling block of politicians who want to experience liberty so they can limit your liberty. They stumble at self-evident, inalienable, absolute truths that are born within inside of us. But the words are clear, precise, profound. They're truth. You see, I have the liberty to breathe. No political party gives me that liberty. No legislated law gives me that liberty. No political demagoguery gives me that liberty. No theory gives me that liberty. It's an actuality inherent within inside of me. I breathe. I have lungs. I breathe oxygen. Now there's other things that we also breathe, but there's a constitution inside of us that filters out those other things that will harm us. Because there's an inherent constitution within inside of us that protects us. But I can breathe. I have the liberty to breathe. Now, I do not have the liberty to choke somebody else to stop them from breathing. I don't have that liberty at all. I have the liberty to eat, go into a restaurant, fix any kind of food item that I want at home. I have the liberty to do that, but I don't have the liberty to starve someone else so they can't experience that liberty. I have the liberty to take a firearm, protect myself, my property, my family, or another person that's being threatened. In a life or death situation, I have that liberty, but I don't have the liberty to take my firearm and just shoot someone and kill them just because I don't like them or disagree with them. I don't have that liberty. You see, self-evident truth also has the characteristic of self-evident discipline. Self-evident discipline is the very intrinsic constitution that is designed within our biology. As I said, I can breathe as many times as I want in the day. I can breathe every day, anywhere I go. If I'm in the United States, I can breathe. If I go overseas, I can breathe. Nobody's going to tell me that I can't breathe. But I can take that freedom and I can say, well, I have the liberty to breathe, so I'm going to breathe in some poisonous gas because I'm a free person, so I'll just breathe anything I want. Well, you're going to pay the consequences, get sick and die. Because with that self-evident truth is also a self-evident discipline or an accountability and responsibility to understand what is good and what is not good. I have a right to walk anywhere I want. But let's say an individual says, hey, I'm a free person. I will walk anywhere I want. I will not pay any attention to the traffic signs, signals, lights. I will just walk anywhere I want. And so they go to an interstate. They want to get to the other side. Since they're a free person, you know, there's traffic going back and forth, 70, 80 miles an hour. But they're a free person. They don't have to adhere to the signs. So they just walk out into traffic because they're a free person. And you know what happens? There's consequences. Because they didn't use the intrinsic self-discipline and accountability and responsibility to know where the danger lies. I have the opportunity and the freedom and the liberty to go into a restaurant and select any food item I want from the menu, but I do not have the liberty to rise from my seating place, go to another person's booth or table and just take their food and eat it. It's not my liberty. Self-discipline, self-evident truth, it's not mine. I have a liberty to buy a car, but not to steal someone else's car, to buy a house, but not burn down someone else's car or burglarize it. I have a liberty to make money, but not steal somebody else's and rob theirs. I have, I have the liberty to buy any kind of item I want, pay for it, but I don't have the liberty to steal from somebody else. So with true liberty and life and justice and the pursuit of happiness, there comes a self-evident truth characterized by self-discipline, accountability, and responsibility. And this is not a political decision. We are born with this Constitution inside of us. But politicians want to take the lead on that. And the greatest stumbling block politicians have is the laws of nature and nature's God, the self-evident truth that lays within inside of us. They do not have a right, politicians do not have a right to take away my liberty to breathe because somebody else commits suicide. They can say, well, you know, there's so many suicides, and believe me, the amount of suicides that takes place on a daily basis it's mind-boggling. But just because somebody else commits suicide and violates the laws of nature and nature's God does not mean that they're going to keep me from breathing. A person hangs themselves to destroy their own life and liberty. That doesn't mean I can't go buy a rope and use it for the right purpose. Because a person takes a gun and blows their brains out and violates their own life and liberty does not mean that they can take my gun, because I haven't done it and I'm not going to do it. Just because a person, well, let me say it like this. Just because a person abuses a particular right to life, to liberty, the pursuit of happiness, does not mean that political legislation has a right to take that right away from me because I have not violated anything. It's just that simple. But politicians stumble over that every day. It is so simple and so pure and so clear, they trip over it every day. We are sovereign, independent individuals that contain intrinsic rights designed within our own biology and psychology. And if we adhere to that, we will remain a free people. To violate that, we forfeit our liberties. And we'll continue this another time. Until then, please be a true American. Thank you.